Hey, what is up? Today we're going to go over the basics of shading creatures in pen. I'm going to be using this fountain pen here. I'm going to be using the Micron. That's kind of the only thing I'm going to use. Like I said, if you're a beginner, this is perfect for you. Stick around to the very end of the video, and I'm just going to kind of explain everything I can. And yeah, you should know a lot more at the very end of this than you knew at the beginning, if you're brand new. So let's get started, okay? Before that, hit the subscribe button if you like stuff like this, if you like learning to draw in general. I draw a lot of creature design. That's kind of the thing I like doing the most. So if you like that as well, hit the subscribe and don't forget to click the bell notification. I'm going to try to post a couple times a week. So let's jump into it. So the first thing is with creatures, a couple of things. Number one, they are not real. They're fictional, so you're creating these things from your mind. You can use reference, so this is Gamera. You can use like screenshots to see lighting in order to kind of understand the shapes and forms. But assuming you don't have that, I mean, you probably will have it, but let's just assume we don't have that, the reference. It's a good way to just try to do it, When you look at him, we gotta decide one thing. Where is the light gonna come from? The lighting is almost always from the top to the bottom, right? Because of the sun, outdoor lighting. He's also always outdoors. So in broad daylight, the light's gonna hit him from above. At night, the light's gonna go from below because he's a kaiju, he's giant. So the lights will be coming from usually a city or something like that. But when we're looking at this, assuming he's in the daytime, the shadow is going to be coming from above. And what you want to do in your mind's eye is start to look at this in simple shapes. So if I was to think of him in like simplistic, blocky, if I was to imagine, let's say he was on the N64, and imagine him like in a simpler, blockier form, because that's the best way to look at that stuff, because it simplifies everything down, I would probably think of this shape I'm drawing out right now, which is like, I'm thinking of again of this like polygon form. The neck over here, curve, and then maybe like obviously round for that shell on his back, right? And then we have his chest down here, like a more or less like a flat chest, and he's got the arms kind of hanging right there. But this is the shape that goes through my mind, and what I think of is, again, light source coming from above, and usually it's coming for illustration, for drawing, for all of this stuff. Usually the most common light source is coming from above and kind of at this angle. It's kind of coming at his face so that we can see him. At least in this one. You can do a backlit too, but right now we're going to do that. So right here, if I was to draw, let's say like a cone or something like that, the light source, it would be, if that makes sense right there. Something like that. It's coming down and it's hitting him right in the eye. And that's going to do a couple of things. Number one, if we look at this simple form of him, we would know that there's going to be a cast shadow. There'll be a shadow directly caused from his head right on his neck, probably around his lower body over here. I'm just going to throw where I would put the shadow, or where it would probably land. And then the bottom of his jaw there is kind of turned back a little bit, so there'll be a little bit of darkness around his lower jaw. That's kind of the way I would think of that. There'd be a lot more light above, on top, right on top of his head. And there will be, probably some dark here in the armpit area, and right here underneath his turtle shell, because his turtle shell's casting a shadow. So that's kind of how I think of this in really, really, really simplistic forms, right? I'm thinking about this. Let me even darken it more to make it more obvious. And I'm just gonna like scratch it in there. Be something like that. And you can do this before sketches. I actually recommend you do this so you can kind kind of visualize what things are happening. So those are the big dark patterns I would look in him as far as this goes. And also what I would go is, but the thing is there's more, right? That's the overall shadows I would look for. But there's more than that. There's these little cracks and crevices all over him because he's this like reptilian turtle thing. And so right under the eye, right, there's going to be a cast shadow with that brow. It's pretty big. Under little spikes, there will also be like these light little mini shadows. But again, that's all smaller stuff, right, that we're going to go over. But like I said, those are the big cast shadows. So let me take this, see that? And I'm going to move it over here right now, at least for the primary shadows. And let me go into that. Okay, so what I did was I scratched in some of the shadow patterns I was talking about onto, Gamera himself. And a lot of those aren't refined shapes, right? They're scratched in. You can actually keep it as a style. I know some people do that. They kind of scratch in stuff. You can totally do that. Or you can go in and try to, like, fiddle in with more shapes. But that's what I have now is the biggest dark shapes, pretty much the biggest shadow patterns that I plan on keeping there. Obviously I have to, I can move stuff around here, change certain shapes or whatever of some of the black shapes here, but for the most part that is where my large shapes are. I need to like put more line on the outside so you can see it better and so on. But what I do from here is I go into secondary shapes, these small little crevices. And the thing with him, and this is why there's barely anything showing, right? Like it looks like the drawing is like 10% done. It's because he's entirely made up of these, graggly shapes. They're going to be all up in here in the eye, and what they're going to do is they're going to be all up in the neck here where there's like flexion folding going on. So let me go into his eye first. Alright, so if I go into his eye, he's going to have a lot of bags and folds under his eye. The reason that is because he is a monster. A lot of them have that. The more bags you put under the eye, it just looks creepy and craggly or like lizardy and that kind of thing. If you look at like a crocodile's eye or anything like that, they tend to have these scrunching around the eyes. What it can do to humans is it can age them. It's a little different for humans. But if you want a character to be menacing, that's another thing. Gamera, I don't think Gamera is a bad guy per se, right? But he can be. And I'm going to draw these little bubbles right here. It kind of goes out. He has this like weird kind of texture kind of going down into this area here, into the cheekbone area. Over here. And so like stuff like this, I'd have to darken up a lot of the lines I put in, because a lot of the initial lines I put in are just too light now because the darkness is coming in. You can throw little even thinner lines, but I'll talk about that later. So right now you want to create these secondary smaller dark shapes everywhere, and honestly in the secondary one I'm gonna have to outline all these spikes right here and throw in little tiny, make everything a little bit darker here. That's pretty much what I'm gonna have to be doing. Obviously the darkest will be toward the bottom here and right below here as well, bottom of the jaw, because it's going to be a little bit less in light. See right here, I'm kind of redrawing almost some lines I did before in the preliminary stuff. And the cool thing about Gamera and designs like this is you can kind of throw in a lot of cool little things and just toy around with it. And the thing is that since it's a monster, it's very hard to mess up because it's a monster, right? You're just looking for this symmetry. It doesn't have to make total sense, but you would like it to make a little bit of sense, right? So a lot of this is going to be fiddling around with shapes. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, is I'm fiddling around with the shapes of Gamera, right? Well, like I said, if you whatever you have, I would say try to use reference, but what I'm doing now is I'm trying not to. That's kind of the idea. I'm trying not to do it, but it'd be a good idea to have, because almost always I have reference, but I just want to give you that option of like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. So see, I'm going to have to darken all of these lines right now. So let me go into the secondary shapes right here, and then I'll come right back, okay? Let me jump in and push into the secondary shapes. Okay, that's pretty much it. Honestly, a lot of that has. It's interesting because it's kind of like this balancing act of like all these lines, but you want the general. Like if I squint my eyes, I want there to be the dark shape here, dark shape here. Probably need more dark shapes here at the bottom. But like I said, he's a craggly character, and he's also a kaiji, so he's gonna have tons and tons, like small details is kind of I think a big chunk of kaiju sometimes, I think, but you know, like, because you want to make them look a little bigger with smaller details and stuff like that. Obviously things you can do for scale would be, and obviously this is not an illustration, it's just a drawing of him. You can do like, hey, there's tiny birds right here floating around his that's a real common one, right? Floating around his head over here, so he's gonna look bigger, you know. Or you can put like a plane or something like that. But obviously these bird shapes are just like the easiest thing you could do, because you see the scale of it, right? Which you can barely tell here. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, I'm gonna keep going through a bunch of different stuff here. Sorry I haven't uploaded enough. I was gonna upload like every day, but I was like, man, it's turned into like once a week. But yeah, be patient with me, and yeah, ask me anything you want, because I want this channel to be super active again. As far as from my end, I really want to give back to this community. Thanks so much. Talk to you later on. Hey, for those of you that are a little bit more serious and you really want to kind of upgrade your art skill all around, I have these beginner art lessons here on my Skillshare. So the idea with this is that some people that, you know, for example, on YouTube, people just kind of want to draw what's in the video and just generally have a fun time. They're not always concerned about the little details and stuff, about learning how to do this stuff, you know, long term. And I get that, that's fun. But for some people want to upgrade their art ability entirely, like all around, like they're serious about it. If that's you, go here. Like I said, there's programs here on even some of the same material. Like I said, it's just a lot more in depth. My eye drawing program is an hour as opposed to the video I have on YouTube, which is like 10 minutes. And I also included some stuff on here that's normally not in art lessons generally. So for example, hardly anyone talks about the fact that 30 to 40% of like your drawing ability comes from the ability to move your hand well, to make clean lines, right? To have non-shaky hands. But most people don't do that. Some people go through their entire like career with wobbly lines, really gross, messy lines because they don't have any hand control, right? And that's the easiest thing you can take care of literally within the first month of drawing. So I made an entire program for it. I want people to start there with improving the control of your hand. And like I said, this program goes through it. That's like one example of something I put up here that a lot of other places don't really talk about, right? You can still learn from both, but like I said, if you really want more and you really want to make this part of your life, go here. I have same thing over here, how to draw a dragon head. I have anime, I have cartoons. There's categories for everything, and everything is for beginners. The other thing about this website is it's incredibly easy to watch it. This is like the Netflix of like drawing lessons, so you can go through the entire site, see everybody else's lessons. And normally the site costs like 30 to 40 bucks a month. Because you're watching this video right now, if you're still watching right now, you get it for free for at least a month. Like 30 days, that's a lot. But just what you have to do is go over here to the video, go down, first link in the description, the very, very first link. That gives you free access to this whole thing for 30 days. You just go over here, you click this thing, boom, and then you sign up. And it's super easy, and the cool part is you can just straight up cancel it before the 30 days is up, and you never pay a single thing. You never pay a cent, and you got all this learning from it. But yeah, like I said, that's an option for you guys. If you guys want to do it, absolutely go hit that up. And that's it. So talk to you later, and hopefully I'll catch you over there later.